carry tier list. You know what? I'll make a very quick carry tier list. Sure. Alright. We're done! Woohoo! No, but we can talk about some of the carries if you want. It's not like I usually don't talk very much about carries. So I think if you want to go for a carry, at the end of the day, almost every carry, if you get them properly invested, they'll work, right? So I think if you do want to go for a carry, speedrunning aside, the better ones are just the ones that tend to have a lot of, like, upsides to them, outside of just how much damage their teams are doing. It's like easier to play, good range, good AoE, stuff like that, right? That's the kind of stuff you're looking for, in my opinion, when it comes to what makes an actual carry more valuable than the others. I think that's part of why Neuvillette is very good. He has very good range, good AoE consolidation. He doesn't die. He's really easy to play. And so him having pretty good damage on top of that makes it so that, like, he's got a lot going for him, right? There's obviously other carries that can be quite good. Generally, I tend not to like the carries that need to stay on field for extended periods of time too much, unless they have really good ways of avoiding damage. So characters like Cyno, for example, I think make for pretty poor hyper investment carries, because, like, his animations are long, they're committal, you have to use your E at specific moments, otherwise you lose out on a lot of damage. And that makes it so even though his teams are good and he does good damage, right, he's burst reliant, he's melee range, he doesn't have particularly big AoE, so a lot of the external factors that can make carries more enjoyable to play at high investment aren't there with him. What about Wanderer? Wanderer is in a weird space where, like, if you don't have C6 Pharazon, Wanderer does not feel good to play. If you do, he does. Right? Like, that's really what it boils down to. But when you have C6 Pharazon, like, Wanderer is not bad, right? Like, the main reason why I'm so negative about him is because Pharazon's only really ever on banners with him, which means that there are not a lot of people with C6 Pharazon outside of the people that are willing to spend a lot of wishes on him and hyper invest into him. And that's very committal, right? Like, that's just... You have to commit to it, you know? And if you end up not actually liking the character that much after you try them, it feels like shit. Obviously, it's a little bit less bad now because there was a Pharazon given for free and he's been out for longer. But both him and Ito, like, they're if you don't have the C6 4-star, their signature C6 4-star support, they are gonna feel a lot worse. And that's part of what makes me dislike them to some extent. Well, yeah, as he gets more reruns, right? Whenever he's on a rerun, there tends to be there's gonna be another 5-star on the same banner, right? So that's something that gets alleviated with time. But yeah, so unlike some of the other carries that are easy to evaluate, like Cyno and Neuvillette, Wanderer, like, evaluating how much I think of him as a carry, it's just very, very dependent on what you have outside of him. What about Alhaitham? I think Alhaitham is fairly easy to evaluate as well. He's a pretty good carry. I think I've grown to like him a little bit more since his release because I've kind of warmed up to teams where he's solo Dendro. I still don't love them, but they're definitely all right. And then he's obviously always been good in teams with Nahida. But one of the upsides with Alhaitham is that, and you guys are gonna hate me for this, but he's one of the carries that has very good synergy with Cyno. And playing the game with Cyno is just easier. I usually run Alhaitham with Yelan. Yeah, you can. He doesn't need Cyno, but he has good synergy with him. I prefer Cyno on Alhaitham teams compared to Yelan by a lot. Yeah, so do I. To some extent, it's the same effect as Zhongli, right? I play Cyno so often that he becomes a bit of a crutch, and then playing without him feels like there's something missing. This was a must with Alhaitham against specific enemies where Cookie's healing isn't enough to play without suffering. Yeah, like that's really what it boils down to, is whenever you start being against slightly aggressive enemies, Cyno just offers you so much calm and peace. Cookie's healing isn't that bad. They're mostly referring to the fact that, like, Cookie will not full heal you instantly. She'll take like 6 seconds to full heal you if you get low. And while you're not full healed, you're low enough to die to one attack. Right? With Cyno, the same amount of HP is worth twice as much because of his resistance, or his damage reduction. Cookie does 5 to 6k ticks if you build her for healing, though. Yeah, but you don't want to build her for healing in Quick Bloom teams. And Hyper Bloom teams with Alhaitham. Also, 3 ticks is 4.5 seconds. Yeah, like, she heals enough on an EM build in Alhaitham teams. But if you take a big hit, you have to make sure you don't take a second big hit in a row, otherwise you're going to die, because she doesn't heal fast, right? Her healing happens over time, and it's not high enough that it'll heal you back up instantly, right? But anyways. Like, I'm not saying this because I'm like I want to convince you not to play Yelan with Alhaitham, like, not at all. But it is a pretty significant upside, in my opinion, when a carry has synergy with Cyno, because it means you have the option to play him. And having the option to play Cyno is never a bad thing. What other carries even are there? I mean, I guess some of the pyro carries. I will say, playing Hutao with Bennett feels so much better than playing Hutao without Bennett. Like, it just feels so much better to play VV Vape with Bennett, Kazuha, Cyno than any other Hutao team, in my opinion. And that team does feel good. As much as Alhaitham's ability to work with Cyno is an upside, I think Hutao's basically need to be paired with Cyno is a downside. Although, that will be alleviated to some extent with Farina. It's not going to be completely removed because, trust me, if you've tried playing VV Vape Hutao with Yelan with no, like, defensive utility, like Amber, Kazuha, Yelan, if you've tried playing that, you know what you're going to be in for when it comes to Farina teams with Yelan and without Cyno, right? Like, you know what you're going to be in for. And it's doable, and it'll do good damage, but I think for a lot of people it's going to be incredibly unpleasant to play, to the point that they won't want to do it. And they'll just use Cyno instead of Yelan. I used Bennett and it wasn't bad at all. Yeah, but you don't want to do Bennett, Farina, Yelan, because Bennett's not going to heal the whole team. And then your Farina's basically not doing anything. So it'll be the team. It's probably just Jean, Farina, Yelan. If you really want to play a non-Cyno Hutao team. Maybe Baiju, but with Baiju it's... yeah, maybe Baiju. It's just, I'm worried about the amount of vapes you're gonna lose with Baiju. Right, you don't have Singso's significantly better Hydro app. All you have is Yelan plus Farina. You're gonna lose out on, like, probably at least one, maybe up to 2 or even 3 vapes on your charge attacks because of burning. Actually, no, that's not true. You're not gonna trigger burning. I don't know if you'll lose out on vapes. I mean, okay, you will lose out on vapes. I don't know how many of those vapes are gonna be on the charge attacks. It might not be any charge attack ones. I've been struggling to vape with Yoimiya because of the C6. Do you think Farina and Singto will be enough to vape? I can't Yelan because she's C6 as well. What have you been struggling with? With, like, Singto only? Well, what team have you been doing that you were struggling to vape? Whale problems, chat? Unlike what 1010 says, whales are people too. Okay? And sometimes they need advice. Yoimiya, Bennett, Singto. What was the last unit, though? Like, because you're saying that you're struggling to vape. Right now, what team are you doing? Yoimiya, Bennett, Singto, and who? Yunjin? Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, Farina will help with that if you're using her. That being said, though, you're gonna have to keep in mind that with Farina, you need to run a healer, right? So you're... And Bennett doesn't cut it. Honestly, the play might actually be... I don't know, actually. I don't know what the play would be. What does C6 Yoimiya do? Every hit hits twice, basically. All her attacks hit twice. It's like 60% damage on the second hit or some shit, but... Because here's the thing, right? If you're using Farina... Okay, actually, I'm saying that, but are you... Because you have C6... You have C6 Yoimiya, so I have to ask this question. Are you planning on going for Constellations on Farina? Or will you be using her at C0? Because at C0, I don't think Farina slots very well in that team. I pull everyone C6 R5? Okay. Then you'll be fine. It might be... I wonder if double Hydro plus Yunjin would be better than double Hydro plus Bennett at that point. Why not just Kazuha for VV? Usually at that level of investment, if you have to do dank setups, you would literally... Like, the enemy would already be dead by the time your dank setup is over if you just played a team that had a shorter setup. I definitely don't think Kazuha's the play. Like, especially solo Pyro Yoimiya, Kazuha setups are a fucking pain in the ass to do. They're doable, right? But you have to do them with your burst, and then that means you have to build ER on Yoimiya, and then that's just omega cringe. Thing is, Yoimiya is probably a major portion of the damage at that point, so Bennett should be better. But unless I'm mistaken, Yoimiya's C6 skews results in favor of Yunjin. Right? Because you get the full Yunjin damage, even if you only get 60% of the base motion value. And Bennett is already pretty close to Yunjin for Yoimiya, like, to begin with, right? Why not both? Well, if you want to vape, you'd need 2 Hydro units. So you wouldn't be able to do both. Well, you could do both, but then Yoimiya's out. Although, to be fair, right, I do think it would be reasonable to consider just not going vape and just playing Farina, not as an enabler, just as a buff to your damage. That's definitely something you could consider. May I ask in your opinion, what's the minimum amount of healing you need to have on Jean to be fully functional in a Hutao team? With Farina? It depends, but... So, okay. Generally, Farina's HP is gonna hover between, like, 34 and 40k. So if you want to break even on Farina's HP drain, you need to heal about 20k. That being said, Farina will be the highest HP on your team, and if you're not quite breaking even on her, but you're breaking even on the rest of the team, it's not the end of the world, right? It just means that maybe 2 or 3 of your summon hits will only have 30% additional damage instead of the 40% that you can get. And that's not that bad. So like if you have somewhere like 16, 17k, that should be more than enough anyways.